football definitely has to be a national pastime like baseball. I love football. I love watching football. I love playing football. It's a getaway for many of us on Sundays or even Saturdays. But I think it's even better when you play it at a highly competitive level, like my next guest here, UCLA quarterback Chase Griffin. Chase is a truly remarkable young man. We're going to talk about his early upbringings, under the lights in Texas high school football, and how did he get to UCLA, what's going on. He's going to share some successes, failures, adversity. He redshirted his freshman year at UCLA. So it's a big challenge. So we're going to talk about that. How does he prepare for games? How does he get a loss out of his mind quickly? And we're going to break that all down and I think have a really, truly remarkable interview. So I can't wait. So let's bring on Chase Griffin. Our world is changing faster and faster. Humans are constantly on the go. Over 70% of people are not happy in some way. They're living in the shadows of fear, especially in their careers and life. Are we humans doomed? I don't think so. And that's where I come in. My name is Joseph Stanley Reichowski, otherwise known as Joe Woo. Each week, I seek to uncover what it takes to truly live your life to the fullest by finding out through interviewing people what were their failures and what did it take for them to reach success. Their stories are truly inspiring, and perhaps they'll inspire you to let go of your fear and live your career and life to the fullest. All right, let's get started, everybody. Super excited for my guest this week, UCLA quarterback Chase Griffin. Chase, thanks for joining me on the Career and Life Show, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys are busy, and I know it's a crazy world right now with COVID and everything. So thanks, and let's dig right into it, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So when did you start playing football? What was the first age that you just picked up a football and started playing?
Growing up, actually, my first sport was soccer. I was a striker. I always wore the Ronaldinhos. My favorite game was FIFA, but I always loved watching football. And
Oh, wow.
so growing up, I'd play flag football, and I had a deal with my mother where fifth grade at age 10, I could start playing tackle. So I played football my first season at 10.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. So what was it about football that attracted you to the sport? What did you like about it most when you started playing it?
I think when I was younger, I just enjoyed watching the highlights on TV and then playing it. I actually liked the physicality and toughness and how violent it was. It was pretty
Right.
good. Always playing soccer, I was definitely, violent out there on the field. I wanted to impose my will, and football was a place where you could really do that, and it was the name of the game.
Yep.
I think as I got older and really grew into the quarterback position, I realized that the position of quarterback really doesn't fit into some of the same themes that the rest of the game is predicated on.
Right.
So the the quarterback position's leadership, responsibility, the cerebral side of it, and then the execution and cleanliness of the game in a
Right.
game that is really about toughness and grit, I think is a great contrast. And I fell in love with that, fell in love with the work of being a quarterback. And I feel like it fit my temperament as an easygoing person who's pretty level headed, but also likes responsibility.
That's awesome. And yeah, you mentioned a great point about leadership. I think in this world today, there's a lot of leadership that can be better, but that's obviously a big thing. And I'm sure with Chip Kelly too, leadership, that's one of the big things. I remember him being the coach of the Eagles, and he preached, the whole leadership thing. So you being the quarterback, then that's obviously a big thing. You work with the, I mean, obviously the offense, but defensive side, you kind of get them going for the game too, or how does that all work with the leadership piece?
Leading up to the games, especially in the ones this season where I knew that I was the guy going into it starting. I really looked every player in the eye and just like, let's go get it. I got you. I knew they had me. And it was exciting to go out there on that field and know from snap one that, balls in my hands. This is the position I play. This is the sport I play. And this is the way that my instincts really get to show. It was really exciting.
That's cool. That's got to be an exciting feeling too. Just like, it's all on you basically as a quarterback. You're the decision maker, obviously in the offense, where's the ball going to go? Obviously you have set plays and stuff, but that's got to be exciting. Just have that be in that moment and make that snap decision where you're looking, whenever you read, down the line, receivers, running backs open, whatever. That's got to be something.
Absolutely. And it's even better when you got, 10 other guys on the field working for you. And then
Right.
the other two sides of the ball really working for you at the same time.
Right. Let's talk about let's take a few steps back too and talk about, eighth grade. I read, as an eighth grader in about 2014, you were touted as a 13-year-old prodigy by ESPN. The article titled "Quarterback Most Likely to Succeed." Did that put a lot of pressure on you, growing up? Like, oh my gosh, I got to live up to these expectations.
I think the expectations and pressure were more felt by the people who were placing it on me. As far as myself,
Right.
way before that article was written, I held myself to a standard of excellence that was really instilled in me by my parents. And it was also backed by my faith. As a
Right.
Christian, I really felt that, excellence and walking in a way where I reflect my creator is something I take pride in. So in everything that I did, I wanted to maintain a level of excellence. As far as the outside noise, I still don't really listen to that to this day. And I
Right.
think it's one of my better qualities that has allowed me to get to this point without losing focus. So, I was very, gracious for that article. Obviously, all of the praise that I've ever received, but I've never done it for that. I think that just follows when you put in the work and have the focus and reach for your dream.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. And you bring up a great point too about all the noise. And I know from, from being in high school and college, I mean, I didn't play pro sports, anything like that, or wasn't a huge athlete. I played intramurals, I played pickup games and stuff, but I just remember the pressure and just the noise from, the fans, and you get a lot of the talk and stuff. I mean, and that's a great quality of yours, is to be able to put that out. How do you put that out? How do you compartmentalize it and put that away so you can focus? Because a lot of people, even I see in the corporate world, they just, let things really bother them. So how do you put that out of mind?
I think the one of the better things about me is I never really paid attention to that in the first place.
That's awesome.
And the best way to stop something is to never start it. And I never really got caught up in stuff like that just because I hadn't always received that type of praise.
Right.
Even after that article, there were times my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, freshman year at UCLA, probably this year at UCLA, where there's been a lot of people who really didn't believe. And if I did this to prove them wrong or to prove the people who are rooting for me right, that would be great. But that's not really what I'm about.
Right.
I'm about there's goals that I have and there's winning to achieve each day. Every single day when I wake up, I'm gonna get out of bed knowing that this is what needs to be attacked. And I'm not gonna stop on it regardless of what others say or feel that I've achieved.
Gotcha. No, it's a great way of putting it. And so many people can learn from that, is to be able to just knock out that noise and not even think about it, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thinking back about high school football, obviously Texas high school football, that's got to be an amazing thing. A lot of pressure. What was that like? The experience of Texas high school football? You
There's
see it
really
in movies and stuff. Is it that big and that crazy?
there's really nothing like it. And I was lucky to come from a one high school town in Hutto where the whole town shut down Friday nights. And we have a little strip across the train tracks, across from the stadium that has, Home Depot, all types of appliance stores, food places, and that would be shut down.
Wow.
We probably have around 7 or 8,000 at our games, probably around 500 to 1,000 students standing up, not in the stands, around the gate. And it was really a blessing to play in front of a town that supported, but also see every week the town fed off that as a team. And we could really see how in Hutto's culture, where football was something that tied the culture to the youth, it showed that there was a reflective nature where when the team was better, the community did better. And it was really a blessing to be part of.
Gotcha. And what I love about you is you're a humble guy. I mean, I've read so much stories, watched tapes and stuff like that, and seen you in your interviews, and it's awesome. And obviously that level, high school football, they kind of put you on the big pedestal and almost like godlike status in a way. How do you deal with that, or how do you kind of keep yourself humble and just sort of keep moving in the right direction versus letting that all get to you?
I think the key is really not, honestly, not caring about what others think about you in that way, where how they feel about you in the moment does not measure who you are completely at all times.
Wow.
And who you are has nothing to do with how people view you in that moment. It was long written before you got here, and it's long written after you get here. So I think the main thing was me turning into my faith, where
Yeah.
how I am, honestly, I don't believe any of us are doing it right. But I know that with my Savior and with God, who I need to be like. So as long as I'm pushing each day in my spiritual journey, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Absolutely, and just tuning a lot of that stuff out and keeping the faith and keeping yourself moving forward. That's really cool.
That is key for me.
Yep. So, what was your freshman year like at UCLA? I know you redshirted. What was that sort of feeling like? In high school, you got the status, and then you go to UCLA and you redshirt. And I hear a lot of people sometimes redshirt. Like, what happened, and what did you learn from all that?
I learned a lot that first year. I think it was a great start for me in school, and I really have always prided myself on being good in school and made that the priority. And I was pleased with how I attacked school on that front. As far as football, when I entered with an injury, so that was a little setback, and it was something that I had to work on overcoming for really the whole year into this year. And there was a lot of work being put in
Right.
so that I would be able to play the way I played this season. As far as the rest of it, there's things that every freshman deals with that I had to deal with. And there's things that everyone who's new to a program has to deal with. And it was definitely an adjustment period, but I see so many blessings
Right.
that were sowed in that time that are beginning to be reaped now.
That's great. And yeah, it's a great point that you bring up, because obviously this year with the whole coronavirus and COVID, it's a big transition for you. You started a bunch of games this year at UCLA. So what was that transition like, going from being redshirted and then all of a sudden now you're starting games, in the middle of it?
I tried to look at everything in a positive perspective, where I look at the situation that I'm placed in and try
Right.
to make the most of it. I used a lot of the time that I had at home because of the COVID uh, to better myself as a person, to spend time with my family, get back to base, really turn into myself and think of who I am and who I want to be, both as a person and a player. Additionally, I was able to use the extra time off the field, where I consulted with the governor's task force for reopening amidst COVID,
Oh,
or
wow.
I worked with a couple of the committees that UCLA and the Pac-12 have in order to get certain policies in place to protect players and to make sure that there was a safe return. And they ended up being followed, and it led to a productive season for the entire conference, which was a blessing.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. I'm glad all you guys got to be able to play, because I was worried about that. I love football and I love college football, and just nothing like being home on a Saturday just watching football and watching you guys play and do your thing. And I was happy to see that they
right,
they were able to make it work.
right, it's a huge blessing because we were at a point pretty much probably a month and some change before season where we were told season's canceled or the season's pushed to spring.
Right. Yeah, and that's tough. But obviously, was that a big difference without fans? I mean, I know in some places they allowed some fans and things like that, and then they had the cardboard cutouts, which is kind of cool. And some places had like some TVs and people on TVs, like I saw in the NBA bubble. But what was that like without the fans, really?
I think it really helped us focus in the games on what was really important. And I think it also led to the teams having to rally each other and be our own cheerleaders. And I noticed that, all the teams we played this season, they were really cheering. You could really hear them. But I know that on our sideline, we were electric almost every game.
Right.
It was a great sideline to be on, be a part of, because no matter who's around us, all we need is all we got. And
Beautiful.
we were so excited and pumped for each other. We have something on a team called Mudita, and it's really celebrating vicariously through your teammates' success.
Awesome.
And we enforced it last season, but we really reinforced it this year, and it was a joy to be a part of.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things I remember from watching, a lot of games. And I do watch a lot of college football, so I'm constantly scrolling through the channels and stuff, and watch, some of your games this past year. And you got, the whole teamwork thing and really the brotherhood. And how does that all come together? Because obviously, there's plays where you might get down or somebody might get down. I mean, how do you as a leader really pump your team and get them up? And when things happen, mistakes happen, how do you get them back on track so you continue to grow as a team and be great?
I think this goes to you love where you put your labor. And
Right.
we as a team have worked collectively so hard, both on our own and together, on a single goal of winning each game. And when you're in the game and in that situation, everyone knows how hard everyone works. You have no choice but to feel the impulse to pick your brother up when he's down, or to hype him up when he's up. There's
Right.
times where there's teams where guys who are having success, they stand out from their teammates in a way that's not good, where teammates may be jealous, teammates may be this,
Yeah.
this, and that. I honestly didn't feel any of that on this team. And that's really a testament to how special the players feel about one another. And I think that was a building block for this program. And I'm excited to see that transition into wins.
Gotcha. So how do you prepare for games? What's sort of the method to, your madness, so to speak, where you get yourself in game mode basically?
The key is really mindset. Everyone goes out there with a certain amount of skill, certain amount of flashiness, something about themselves tells themselves they have the it factor. But the only way to really play like that is to have your mental right going into the game. So some guys are energy guys. They gotta be hyped the whole time. They gotta be rah rah.
Right.
That's not really
Right.
my style, but I respect that. Every team needs some of those. And
Right.
then there's some guys that are in the middle, and then there's some guys that are cool, where I'll be out there and I'll still be verbal and everything, but as far as my mindset, I'm almost comatose. I'm not thinking about too many things. I'm out there, what's my job, and however it goes on the play, I'm going to make sure that I'm working my plan.
Right.
Because you go in there trying to be too controlling, to this, and that, to pre-position to do something, it's not going to turn out the way you want. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. You got to go out there and have fun. And that's why during the week, you have to be 100% locked in, 100% prepared. That way on Saturday, you just go out there and use your training, have fun with it, let the juices flow.
Right. You execute and do your thing and hopefully come out with a W.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So what's a successful thing, let's say, in your life's journey and your journey in football that you learned, like one successful thing that you've learned that you're taking with you, continue to move forward.
I've learned so many things. I've had a blessing as far as having so many great mentors and people who have walked the path that I've walked, who've reached out and just said their little two piece. And I think the one thing that I learned was this person's gonna have this thing, this person's gonna have this thing. Like Deshaun Watson and Johnny Manziel
Right.
are going to have two starkly different ways of how they think about a certain play when they're playing it.
Right.
But the main thing is you have to find for yourself how you're going to play that. There's guys who are very skilled, guys who, have great talent, who have all this. But at the end of the day, it's about how you play.
Right.
And that's really what the ballers have, and it's signature to each one of them. And
Gotcha.
whether you notice it or not, there's some guys who stand out more than others just because of their personality. But if you're a cool guy, don't be trying to be in the huddle giving a speech before every drive, because that's
Right.
not your thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being yourself out there, and that's you have to walk in yourself in order to play well.
I love that. Walking yourself. That's really cool. That's awesome. So thinking about your career, what's one failure you can talk about that you learned from? Something that you just said, you know what, I really learned a good life lesson here, and it really has helped propel me to the success I've been having.
Mm. I mean, I think I honestly, I'm competitive, and that's the side of football that I really love because
Yeah.
it's a great sport to compete in. Every loss feels like a failure.
Right.
So I would say I have the same feeling in every loss, which is how much more could I have done, or what if I had this play back or this play back. So
Right.
I'd say the number one teacher is the pain that you feel in these losses.
Mm,
There's
yeah.
You're gonna feel the pain because you put in the work for it. And that's a good thing. If you could lose and not feel any type of way about it, that says something about your process. Maybe your heart wasn't in it. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a good self evaluation.
Uh,
But the pain that you feel with every loss, every play that doesn't go a way that you know it could have gone or should have gone with your talent,
right.
and those are things you have to reflect on, because most of the time it's not the talent that gets you into trouble. It's minor stuff that can be worked on and refined in the training process.
Right.
So I think one thing that I've learned is you have to look at everything as controllable. You can't look at things as blames. You can't look at things, everything that you can control, you have to control 100%, and you have to find where
Right.
you can control it. Just because as a quarterback, if you're not willing to accept responsibility or to play in a way where you feel responsible, then you're at the wrong position.
Yeah. Wow. That's something. And I guess, every loss then that must sting, when you come out with an L and you're just like, all right, what do we need to do better? But you find that, you get the loss out of your system pretty quickly and you just try to move forward as quickly as you can so you can focus on the next week. Or how long does that take to kind of process through that? Like a day or so for you, or
It's about a day. You feel it for the rest of the day, and then I'm not really of a high highs or low lows type of person. Even in
right?
wins, I'm not through the roof, ready to celebrate. Um, I'm really just about the next day, making sure that I find wins that day. So, regardless of win or loss, give yourself about a day to feel it. And then right after that, you got another game. And if you want to be feeling content because you won the week before, you better get to it on Monday.
That's awesome. Very cool. So what's it like playing for Coach Chip Kelly? I mean, I remember seeing him here, on the side with the Eagles. I'm from Philly and not too far away from Philly, and I loved his play calling and I loved his style. What's it like? Is it pretty cool?
I'm actually accustomed to head coaches who do call the plays,
Right.
and I think that I'm actually very lucky in that, because there's a lot of guys, especially at the college level, who don't have that type of dynamic. So to
Right.
have that all the way through high school to now is really a blessing. I would say in that dynamic, you really get to experience the game through the coach's eyes. And what I mean by that is we get the script 2 or 3 days before the game. We go through it,
Right.
and we're in a game and coach rattles some off. I remember that was play 14 on the script. And
Wow.
it's really nice when you're able to go through the games, go through the script, and then you're in the game and you're just letting it flow, and you've already played the game in your mind. So playing for Coach Kelly with that dynamic is definitely a blessing.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So my last question for you, and this has been fun, by the way, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this. So my last question for you is, what's next for Chase Griffin? Where do you see yourself going, and what's the future hold for you?
I would say, as far as the short term, these next 8 to 10 weeks are focused on getting my body ready. And I was pleased with how my body operated during this past season. But as always, there's such a big jump that I know I can make. And I'm excited to make it. I feel like I'm at a time in my body where is really malleable, and I can really turn into the type of athlete that I want to be in a way where I can dominate games both mentally and physically. And I'm excited to make that stride these next 10 weeks into spring ball. As far as the long term, I'm also focused in the academic side.
Great.
I'm really excited about my internship that I've been in for about 4 months, that I still have about 5 more months to go in at
Oh, that's
Accelerated
awesome.
for America, where I'm the communications intern there. And I'm really soaking up a lot of knowledge about P3s and all types of investment banking and projects.
Oh, wow.
And it's exciting because it shows that the skill set that I'm building now is applicable to things that I think I'll have a passion for in the future other than football. So as long as I stay focused on both fronts, keep my family life good, which
Yeah,
is really priority to me, and my faith, which is my number one, I think I'm on the right track and
that's
I'm
great.
optimistic.
That's awesome. And how do you balance that, with academics? Because obviously, you got a lot of traveling, you've got a lot of, homework for football, reviewing previous games, watching tapes and things like that, and hanging with the coach and learning and stuff. How do you balance all that out?
It really just all goes to being excellent in everything. And I know school is a responsibility of mine, just like doing well in football is a responsibility in my eyes. So, regardless of what it is, I'm going to stay focused in it. And another way to stay focused is cut out all the fat. And so, I'm really only focused on about 3 or 4 things in my life that really have meaning to me, regardless of how broad they are. And as long as I keep chopping every day, I'm going to keep on making strides as long as I keep pushing myself to stay focused.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, this has been fun, Chase. I really appreciate you, taking the time out of your schedule again to come and talk about your career, your life journey. And I've learned a lot from you, and I just want to thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on the show. I enjoyed it. Four is up. Go Bruins, and God bless.
That's right, everybody. Chase Griffin, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Is that not a lot of fun talking to the great Chase Griffin? I mean, so many things that I picked up on the interview. It was phenomenal. His humble approach to everything, and he was consistent with being humble and his humility. And it was great to see that from his early years through Texas high school football to one of the storied programs of all time in UCLA, and taking that approach through winning, losing, adversity. Remember, he redshirted his freshman year, so he had a lot of adversity. And he could have picked up and walked away, but he kept going. He had faith in himself. His entire faith is what drives him. But I also picked up on something really cool, his mindset. If you notice how he talked about being a leader, inspiring other players, talking about the brotherhood, about helping somebody when they're down, picking things up. Think about how he talked about getting to the next play. You make a mistake, you move forward very quickly. You have some adversity in a game, you lose a game, you get to the next game. You get it out of your mind. He talked about putting the naysayers, all the distractions out of his mind. And so many of you don't do that in this world. So many of you let all these distractions, these naysayers, these armchair quarterbacks get to you. And it was really refreshing to see Chase talk about how he puts that out of his mind very quickly and moves on, and how he takes a loss if they lose, puts it out of his mind and moves on to the next game or the next film session or whatever it is, and tries to get better every day. Chase is really, truly a remarkable person. And he's obviously going places, whether it be in the NFL at the next level or in some kind of corporate career. You're definitely going to see and hear a lot of him. So Chase, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure to interview you, a pleasure to get to know you all this time, and wish nothing but the success for you. And we'll see everybody next time and next week. Take care.